Hi again, everyone, and welcome to this latest episode of the Walking for Peace podcast, revisiting all of the moments of our pilgrimage from Rome to Jerusalem 25 years later, here with my companion, my mighty companion of all things, Alberto Agrasso. Hola, Alberto.
Hola.
Here we are once again.
Here we are.
Here we are indeed. And, as we revisit all of these experiences, as we have been doing in these episodes, it gives the feeling sometimes that, we have been walking for a long time. It gives the impression that, wow, all these experiences that have happened, with your, hearing the news of your dad and then your dad passing and then walking together for the first time, calling on the churches, learning to kind of adapt to this new way of walking with the two of us together, not just the way I wanted to walk, but the way I was being kind of invited to consider another way of walking. Our putting on of our signs. That was another thing that happened. Cutting out the letters for our Walking for Peace signs, meeting the hermit, the two hermits, and the two very distinct experiences with the hermits, the ideas of being messengers, so many things that were coming up. The resistance that I was feeling around so many of the events that were happening and how I was walking now a different way than I had imagined. Would you believe that only happened like within the space of 2 weeks? It was literally, we started walking December 5 and we finished with our last experience with the hermit took place December 17. And it's only not even 2 weeks, and all of these intense events are happening every single day. It seemed like there was something new to consider, some new experience that was awakening either a new fear or awakening a new way of, well, being invited to look at a new way of understanding something, not necessarily understanding it, but being invited to consider another way of understanding it. And so many things were happening, and I'm thinking, this is going to be like this all the way to Jerusalem every day, something intense. It didn't feel like there was like an easing up. It just felt like every day was intense, not just the physical intensity, obviously, of the walking that we were doing, but just the emotional intensity, all the mental stuff that was coming up, being forced to the surface. A lot of the ideas I held, especially about, spirituality, the ideas that I held about who I am, what peace is, what we are here to do in this world. Everything was just being brought up literally 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks of walking together.
Yeah. That was another thing too, is that we were having meaningful encounters with people, very loving people. Like, for example, one of them we are going to talk today. No, we had this meeting with Bernardino Fierce, and in this day that we are going to talk now, we had this meeting with Gaetano. People that were beautiful, that we could feel that they were friends from the very first moment. But these were meetings that only stay for one day,
True.
for one day, and we needed to continue working, knowing that that new day we are going to meet new people, and this for the time that this journey we are going to extend. Then this was too surprisingly new for us, no, because we were having meaningful meetings. Some of them very meaningful, very beautiful, that we will want these people to stay with us all our life, to be friends for life. But where we knew that probably we were not going to meet them again.
Yeah.
Then it was interesting in that sense too. Even at this beginning of our journey, we were starting to notice this too. No,
Yeah,
don't you think?
it's true because it's not like the Camino, because on the Camino, little groups of people end up kind of forming. Even though you don't walk together all the time,
Yeah.
you kind of see the same faces more or less. You may see them like maybe a day or two ahead. You may pass them, they may pass you.
Because they are walking with you, no? But these people, no, we were the ones that were walking. We were not going to see them again. That is true.
That's so it's like it's a different kind of pilgrimage. Even though this is a pilgrimage, it's very different because, like you say, it's one day. And then the next day we are going to continue. And the nice thing, which we mentioned before, is that we wrote everybody's name down, and we promised, because they all asked, when you arrive to Jerusalem, can you just send note or somehow let us know that you arrived safely? And that is something that we would eventually do. I'm not going to spoil it right now to say what we did, but we would let them know once we arrived in Jerusalem, and we took down the addresses of those who wanted us to send notification of some kind. Again, this is before the days of Wi-Fi, before the days of cell phones, before the days of having immediate access to everything. We had to get to internet cafes. We had to find internet cafes with dial-up service where we could check our email. Like, there wasn't Facebook, social media, all that wasn't around when we did this walk 25 years ago. And so it was literally writing down their names and, making note to send something once we arrived in Jerusalem.
Maybe we can do a small spoiler that we sent the hundreds of of postcards when we arrive to Jerusalem. But we will tell more detail when we arrive to that moment. Yeah.
Spoiler: it's a picture on the back of the book. So there you go. But yeah, we did arrive obviously safely, and here we are. And so that was something that was, every day was a different experience. Just like on pilgrimage, every day is a different experience. But in this case, we're meeting people that, like you say, we were not going to be seeing them probably ever again in our lives. So. Yeah.
And some of them very meaningful, beautiful people. Yeah.
Well, just like the one that we're going to tell today, because we left the story last time with the hermit, the hermit in the experience that we had with him. That was the last episode, called Embrace, if you want to check it out. And we continued the next day, and actually we're looking at the photos from the photo album. We didn't take, as we said, a lot of photos because I had a camera, old style camera that needed cartridges, and we just had to wait until we found cartridges and to develop the film. So every picture was meaningful, and we never knew what we're going to see until we developed the film. But here I'm looking at the pictures from that day's walk, because that day's walk took us from that hermitage towards a town called took us to Gubbio, which we spent the next day in Gubbio, and then after Gubbio we went to Scheggia. That was kind of the next town. But Scheggia was it was an incline, and on the pictures, which I'll post in the comments, you see us with all of our gear, and you see the snow falling. It's snowing, and you see us on an incline, the hill. And I have in my diaries that we walked about 4 kilometers uphill. It was like an 8% incline, because I saw the signs, I guess, for the trucks and the cars to slow down. 8% incline for about 4 kilometers, and about 8 kilometers downhill. And all pilgrims know the downhill is worse than the uphill. On your knees, on your shins, it's just, and especially when you're carrying heavy backpacks, it's just a different kind of pressure. But anyways, it was cold. It was snowing. But we were wearing all of our gear. So that was a good thing. And so we walked to the town called Scheggia, which was the next town on the map. And as we normally did, we asked for the house of the priest, and we knocked on his door. We had to wait a little bit because he wasn't around, right? We waited in our coffee shop. And then in the afternoon, wanted to say something?
Yeah, that there was something interesting before that we met in Gaetano, is that in the coffee shops, because we did in the coffee shop of that city, and we did in the next, and we were doing lately more and more since we had the signs in the backpack, that people in the coffee shops, they came to us and they asked it, and the owner or the people that were there, and they asked about our signs, and we could explain more about what we were doing, and I could put you more nervous about what I say, because I was talking, I was feeling more confident about talking about God and about, and this is starting to happen more and more, and especially in Christmas, and with us having the signs in our backpacks. And I remember that we had a couple of anecdotes in these days. I don't know if it was before we arrived to Gaetano, or maybe in the same day that we arrived to Gaetano. I was reading in my diaries, anyways, before or later, that some people, after to hear what we were doing, say, "Well, you are very courageous. Be careful, because there are a lot of dangers in the road and doing a journey like this." And in some moment, I felt I felt I couldn't avoid to say. I felt the passion to say, "Don't worry, we feel protected because God is working with us."
I can
And
imagine my face before.
but it's not was not only your face. It was I could feel that people
Yeah.
quiet. They stop talking, or they look at a little
Uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But even me myself, I felt that I had forced a little too much, because I was not accustomed to talk, especially about God.
Yeah.
I talk before about the spirituality in a very open way, and in circles where I felt I was welcome. But here I was talking about God, specifically using the word God, and in more Christian terms, and in a country that I consider was Catholic, but obviously not everybody was embracing this vision. And yeah, and I myself felt that I had pushed too much in this declaration
Yeah.
that I had in my diary written. Digo, maybe I should consider about to talk so openly about this, and to wait to see what is the people is open to that. And I had in my diary still this point. I was in the coffee shops. In the coffee shops, the people began. Claro, we had the boards, the
sign.
signs in the backpacks, and the people came and asked it, and they feel curious, and they invite us to chocolates and to
True.
to coffee, and all that. And it was obvious that this was going to come in some moment.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'm remembering too that in my diary I had the same thing, because when you mentioned the chocolate, it's like, oh yeah, they introduced me for the first time to their version of hot chocolate, which was literally a piece of melted chocolate with some milk to kind of make it run. But it was like literally a piece of chocolate, just like you have el chocolate con churros in Spain.
Yes.
It's like a thick chocolate, but you kind of eat it with a spoon. It's not a liquid.
It's
It's just,
thick,
yeah. And so, but that, and also at, yeah, I have also in my diaries the awkwardness that happened as soon as you mentioned the word God, and my feeling of where we are, that it could be a barrier, because we want we want to engage with people, we want people to be interested, we want them to ask, we want to explain ourselves as best as we can, but in the moment that you mentioned the word God, it just felt like there was a silence in the bar, which was a shame, because it was they were, as always, lovely people wanting to know, but it just felt like that was just a little bit too much, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. Yeah.
Or maybe it happened too that the people, they don't know how to handle
They
it.
don't know how to handle it either.
Either, even
Yeah.
because maybe they had the beliefs too about that, but it's not something that you had in a conversation usually. In the coffee, in the coffee store, or in the bar, no.
Yeah.
Then it was interesting. Yeah. I felt too that when I am confident about it, and I know that you had this feeling too, and today we had this many times, because we have talked about God many, many, many times. But when I am confident in the moment, it's like everything shift, everything change, and I could feel the openness of the people to talk about that. If I don't feel confident, it's like I see outside how the people change.
Rejection, yeah.
The rejection, or maybe the awkwardness. It's more that
Yeah.
rejection is awkwardness. But when I'm confident, when I feel it, when I say really from love, and not like the pressure that or obligation that I need to say or to defend something, when flows naturally, I could see how rich naturally outside, and even this allow that there is a conversation from other people too about this. And that is interesting, because go again to the same point that A Course in Miracles say to us, that we are teaching with what we think and we believe. We are teaching, we are showing, we are putting there,
Demonstrating.
broadcasting our
Correct.
thoughts and belief. Then is I am afraid that I can offend somebody, or I can make somebody uncomfortable, it's very probable that I am going to see that, because I'm going to show that in my movie, in my dream,
And you're
in
going
my
to experience it.
I'm going to experience it.
Right.
But when you are doing from pure love or pure confidence in what you are doing, saying, and not to convince somebody, but like the expression of what you really believe, it is going another way, and you see another reaction there outside. It's interesting, but you had noticed this many hundreds of times, thousands of times. You had experienced this since then, to now. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
Well, it's a demonstration, a continual demonstration of how, what you are believing, what you are feeling, all of that you are, like you say, demonstrating, broadcasting, putting in front of you, and you're experiencing it. What you believe, you will see. What you fear, you will also experience. What you are awkward about, you're going to, put out there so that you can affirm that awkwardness. And so you're continually broadcasting what your fears are, what your emotions are, what your thoughts are, conscious or unconscious. You were continually doing that. But that would become a point too in the bars, because we would put the signs. We could have very easily too just put the signs facing away so that nobody would read them, but we purposely put them facing out so that we could engage with people. And so we were also learning how to engage outside of the protected, shall we say, spiritual conversations of being inside the churches or the monasteries or the spiritual communities, right?
No, I was going to say something, but I forgot. Yeah, no. What I wanted to say too is we use this, is we get this in the right way, we can understand too why if you are open or you want to see or you believe that your brother is really your brother and is somebody that loves you like you deserve, as you deserve, like you love him, you can see the reaction outside too. In that way, then that is the courses. The courses are also teaching us or bringing us to this point where look to beyond the image of what you see. Yeah. Look to the brother, to the Christ that is beyond that image. Then
the Christ being, look to the light, look to the love, look to what eternally joins you and binds you, and what is like you in your brother, which is the light, which is the love, which is the truth, which is what this
and not look your brother like something different of you, by like one in the life that you are, exactly. No, and the life that from where you come from too.
Exactly, yeah. That's exactly right. And so with that, we eventually made our way to, it was getting a little bit later in the day. We were directed to the house. We knocked on the door. A very young man, I would say our age.
Yeah,
he was our age. I was then what, 30 something. You were 32, 33. 52. I was 36. So he was around that age too. And very casual, dressed in jeans. He had a backpack, kind of came, opened the door, looked at us, tall, yeah. Taller than you, like over 6 feet tall. And we introduced, yes, very friendly, and especially spoke Spanish.
Yes.
It became immediate right away, because you were becoming quite fluent in Italian, because the similarities between Italian and Spanish are great. And for me, it was a little bit more difficult, although I could capture, because I had French as my base. You had Spanish, which was a much closer language. So anyways, he saw us, very friendly. He looked at us and just, come on in, you can stay at my house. And that was a first, because we had never had a priest invite us into their house, into their private accommodations. Normally we were shown to a church hall, we were shown to something, or if we were in a monastery, obviously there was the part where they had the beds. But this was where we were, the first time that we were invited into his residence, into his home.
Yeah.
And we were like, wow, thank you very much. And he was just like, yeah, no big deal. It's like, he saw a couple of friends. Hey, come on over, have some drinks. He showed us to, he had a couple of rooms. It was a big house. It was freezing cold.
It's freezing cold.
Freezing cold in the house. But he invited us to eat something with him. I forget. Did we eat something with him, or did we take us right away to Gubbio? I think we ate something with him kind of very quickly.
I know that we had dinner with this family that
he drove us. That was the thing. He took us. He said he had some things to attend to, and in Gubbio. And so he said, why don't you come with me? I'll invite you to this family that I know, some great work that they are doing, taking in children who have, they're fostering children, right? With special needs. That's what I think. There were special needs.
No? Special needs. it was young people that had not parents or
Foster kids.
foster kids. They had it was a couple, young couple that had 4 children themselves,
Correct.
and they were hosting I think 2 or 3 more,
Yeah.
like minimum 2, and all of them were there for receive us for dinner. Very Christian, obviously. They were doing that for their religious belief too.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the case
Yeah.
where we went to have dinner with them.
Yeah. So he took us to Gubbio and left us with that family while he attended to whatever he needed to attend to. And did they speak Spanish? Because again, my level of comprehension at that point
Yeah.
was not at the level of Alberto's, but they did speak Spanish, if I recall correctly, right, Berto?
I think so. I'm not much sure about that because in my diary I had not written that. I think I spoke Spanish especially with him, with Gaetano, with Father Gaetano. That I had not mentioned, but for me was a real surprise. It
A
was
gift
a gift,
to speak
exactly,
Spanish.
because it was the first time that I spoke Spanish with somebody in the journey beyond the conversations that I had with my family. No, and then it was a gift,
he
really.
spoke Spanish because he had done a mission in
In Peru,
Peru,
in
and
Peru.
that's why he spoke Spanish.
Exactly. For
Yeah.
2 years, I think he was
Something
in
like
Peru
that,
or
yeah.
something like that. And we will talk more about this now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will talk more. We will talk more about his journey or his 2 years in Peru later. About this family, it was a very nice encounter. What we shared dinner with them, and I think Gaetano came later. We were with them. First and seeing their life, they were friendly, not too close, but friendly. There we were with the young people. They were teenagers. Mm? And the thing that I remember the most of this encounter with this family is that how much I appreciate the work that they were doing with these 2, 3 young people that they were having fostering in their house. And I told them in more than one occasion, I said, wow, this is great what you're doing. I really was impressed, no? Because they already had 4 children with them, but they were doing this too. And I could see the effect that they were having with these young, because they helped them after to find jobs too. So there was some kind of a cooperative.
A cooperative?
Yeah, that they had. I had in my diary that they had some kind of, and then it's not only that they were fostering them, they were helping them after to find jobs and all that. But I remember that in one of the occasions, of the 2 or 3 occasions, I said, what you are doing is great. That is, show how much love you had for them and appreciation. I remember that he told me very seriously, he said, I'm not doing for them. What? I'm not doing for them, really. I'm doing this for Jesus. Uh, and then I was a little shocked. Well, okay. And then I remember that I said, well, if you are doing for Jesus, you are doing for them too. No, because Jesus will do it for them. That was the conversation. And he nodded with the head, whatever. But then I never knew very sure what he was trying to say with that affirmation that he did. What do you think, Moni, that maybe he tried to say?
I don't know. I think maybe it was, if I had to
His
guess,
religious
I
beliefs,
think it
maybe.
was the belief that this is part of how you serve Jesus and serve your religion, serve your beliefs. But I don't know how you can separate that from serving your brother.
Your brother. Yeah,
And
exactly.
so to this day, when you mentioned it to me earlier today, it's like, I'm not sure. It's a demonstration of his love of his religion. I don't want to say that
No.
he considers it an obligation, because it didn't,
No.
like an obligation of his faith to, just like, you're obliged in certain religions to tithe, give 10%. This is part of the norms of your religion. You have to give 10% to your church or to your temple or whatever it is. I don't think it came from that place of my religion is obligating me to do this.
Yeah.
It was just a very strange encounter. I don't know how to explain it myself,
Yeah.
because how can you say that you're serving Jesus, but you're not serving your brothers if you're doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah, or maybe he was he believed that he was serving his brothers, but especially overall he believed that he
Yeah,
was
maybe,
serving
and maybe
Jesus,
that's what it
who he
is.
was doing for you. Maybe I don't know. But it was something interesting in this, how we have mentioned many times that. We were moving in circles that were very Catholic, very religious, very loving, but we found people that they were more spiritual. They were more spiritual from the heart, for what they felt, and we found two people more dogmatic too. And this was, sometimes we didn't know very well how to handle situations, and we were doing the best that we could. How we had
Yeah.
said many times, and trying to allow that Holy Spirit, that at that time we didn't call it Holy Spirit, but
The inner guide,
the
the inner
inner
teacher.
guide, the inner
Yeah.
teacher,
Yeah.
help us to flow the best. And how we say, is we are messengers, you are the one that are bringing the message, and to them and to us, and we trust in you. Is what we try to do. But was interesting thing.
Yeah, all of these encounters were, on the one hand, really loving, as you say, but they were also causing a lot. This was all new for me, being in spiritual communities. I didn't grow up in spiritual communities or religious communities. My family was not that kind of practicing family. And on top of that, it wasn't in the religion that I grew up with. And so I was being introduced to a way of living, ideas, things that I had not really been introduced to before, and I wasn't really sure how to take it all. It was all just very new. I was just trying to deal with it the best that I can, not really still understanding why I was being asked to walk this way, especially with you. And I think that was part of the inner conflict, because there was a part of me still saying, I can just very easily just go to a hotel and just not have to deal with any of this and just focus on, my own inner journey, on my own inner listening, and, building up my confidence and just having that inner relationship with spirit, or, with my guides, with my angels, all of that. And so this was really putting me outside of my comfort zone every single time we knocked on a door or we were in a situation like this. It's like, why am I going through this?
And I am thinking too that it was not only when we knocked to the doors. I think I was already when the shock was walking with you all the time, 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because these conversations that we had, I am sure that you didn't have with anybody else. Then
Well, you were, I would say, the first kind of person that I had met, Catholic, that I didn't know any Catholics, but that really understood kind of the history, and had practiced and had gone to the church and had gone through the experience and wanted, studied to be a priest. I had never met anybody like you before. And on top of that, was also spiritual and open to other ways of thinking. So this was all, I was seeing the two sides. I had only met you. The original context of you was meeting you as somebody who was spiritual. But when we started walking together, it became Catholic. And it's like, what is this? This is not really what I imagined this would be. So I was having to do a lot of kind of reconciliation in my own mind, a lot of inner reconciliation, trying to come to a place of peace within me, and to trust, okay, if I'm being guided in this way, I'm going to trust that there is a purpose in all of this. And that was really how I was trying to handle it. Okay, that there is a purpose in doing this and going through all these experiences. Yeah. Yes. So Gaetano eventually showed up. He drove us, he picked us up and said, oh, before I take you back to Scheggia, you have to see the biggest Christmas tree in the world. And I'm thinking, okay, wow. Because Gubbio holds, the world record for having the biggest Christmas tree. And I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be something incredible. And then he drives us, and he points to the side of a mountain, and I forget the name. Is it Mount Ubaldo or something like this? Anyways, if you look up Gubbio, you will see that it's essentially lights that are running down the side of the mountain, Christmas lights in the shape of a tree. And so, of a Christmas tree. And so when you look at it, it looks like there is a big Christmas tree on the side of the mountain. So I thought, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. Maybe, again, expectations, right? Expecting to see a big, tall, standing tree, and it wasn't like that.
Like
No.
the Americans' big trees,
Yeah,
American or
exactly.
Canadians' big trees are real trees, huge, full of lights and whatever. No, that was not that.
This was
like,
literally the side of the mountain lit up.
Yeah.
But it was nice. It was really good.
nice.
Yeah.
And there are postcards there that
That's right.
that show this famous big tree. I don't know in Italian how they call it, the Natale, arbol de Natale, the biggest. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
Anyway,
easily found if you Google
Gubbio.
Gubbio and the Christmas tree. So yeah, but by the time we got back, it was well after midnight. After the long day of walking in the mountains, we couldn't shower because it was freezing. It was so cold. We literally just baby powder, wet wipes, and that was it for the night. We got back after midnight and we said cold. It was so cold. I slept in all my layers, and I know you did the same thing. He had a couple of beds in different rooms, and
It
I
was in a
slept in all.
mountain,
It was, yeah, Italy. I guess I didn't expect all of that cold. We were in the Apennine Mountains, basically. We're in the Apennine Mountains. We're crossing the mountains to get to the coast towards Rimini. And so, yeah, and it was almost Christmas time. That's the other thing. We spent the night, all of our layers on. In the morning, he prepared breakfast for us, which was very nice of him. Some coffee and some food. And he said to us, "Go stop in the next town," which was very close. It was only about 10 kilometers away. And I think the town was it called Cantiano?
Cantiano, I
Cantiano
think
was
so.
no,
Yeah.
or was it Aquilania?
Oh, no.
I have to look at my diary to be sure.
I think it was Cantiano.
Okay. Well, the next town, he said he knows the priest there, and he goes, "I'm going to tell him you're coming, so that he's expecting you, and you can have a place to sleep because I know he'll take you in."
And I think he was there, no? He came.
And he said,
after
"I'll
to
meet you."
say
Yeah,
hello.
he said, I'll meet you there, but go to this next town." And we said, "Okay, that's what we'll do." Yeah.
Yeah. One thing too that I remember is that this day that was snowing, that we had the pictures. It was the time that I saw snow for a long time because it really.
Was it your first time seeing snow?
No, I had seen snow too when I was studying in Salamanca, in more at the north in Spain, but only 2 or 3 times in the 2-3 years, the 3 years that I was studying there, 2, 3 or 4 occasions that I saw the snow falling. But this snow was thicker here in Italy. And it was a long time that I don't see. And I was walking, through it with the backpacks, and it was a very interesting experience. And it was very cold. Another thing too, that what you mentioned, that we start to see the Christmas lights everywhere, the environment, the how you call los villancicos, the
Christmas carols.
the Christmas carols, and all that we start to. So I remember to start to feel the melancholy. The melancholy of missing people. I always loved Christmas. It's my best favorite time of the year. It's topic to say, but it's true, and still today. And for his significance, especially today, is the symbol of the Christ, of the birthing, of the rebirthing of the Christ. But it always was a party or a celebration that was beautiful, with the lights and the joy in the people, the hugs, the love. Then I always love it, and I always had these days very attached to the idea of family and friends. And there we were, walking, you and me, that we still we didn't know each other, and walking every day with strangers, no, in the street. Even when we were with this idea already that we are all brothers and try to see the best in others, and we were walking with the spirit, with God, and all that. But I was missing that connection, familiar connection, that loving connection with my relatives, no. And I started to feel, this is going to be a difficult Christmas in this aspect, no.
And for me too,
Yeah.
for me too, because I had never missed a Christmas with my family. Wherever I was, when I was working outside of Ottawa, I've lived in Toronto, I've lived in the States, and in near the Seattle area, and I always found a way to get home for Christmas. So I never missed Christmas with my family.
And me either. Now that you say, it was my first Christmas outside of home. True, it's true.
Yeah. And so this would be the same for me. And I was starting to feel the same kind of melancholy, the same pangs, the same kind of I'm missing home as well, especially when you see all the families are out together, everybody gathering. You look in any restaurant, you see everybody gathering together. Christmas carols, the Christmas lights, everything was, and you see the different decorations, you see it all. And so, of course, you're feeling that kind of, I miss my family too. And I liked being with you, but at the same time we didn't know each other, like you say. And I'm sure your father must have been on your mind, because your father had literally, it only been not even 2 weeks since all of that, so he must have been on your mind too, no?
Yeah, my father and my family too, because they were too. I imagine that they were sad too for what happened with my father, and then it was different. I was not with them, and I miss all that. Yeah, it was, and we saw everywhere. We saw pictures of families together, preparing for the celebration.
And that's for me too, because we spent a lot of time, as every Lebanese family does, preparing. You cook weeks in advance, you prepare all the food in advance so that you feast together as a family. And so this would have been a time when I was preparing, would have been preparing. I usually made the baklava, I usually made other things. So this was a time that also you spent not just on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, but you spent beforehand with family preparing all the foods and all the things that you were going to share on that Christmas Eve. Yeah.
At the same time, I remember that we mentioned between us that we started to look more like Joseph and Mary when they went to Bethlehem, because there was pictures and figures everywhere of Jesus and Mary Joseph and Mary with the sticks, like we were with the sticks, we were working for the rods, and this
We just didn't have a mule.
we had not a mule yet. Well, we will talk about that after. But and also, even when we don't we didn't mention openly all the time. I did more than you for sure. We were walking in a spiritual journey, and for me, it was related to the Christ, the inner Christ. Like we will talk later. Then for me, was in relation to this history,
To the story, you mean?
the story of Jesus, and the
Yes.
story of remember who we are. No,
Yeah.
then it was this picture too in my mind. For one part, there was the missing the familiar or the worldly Christmas, at the same time feeling that I was walking a real Christmas, journey. Then it was interesting, these ideas, but I couldn't avoid to miss my family and my friends. Yeah, for sure.
Same. Well, did we mention the postcard that he gave us? No, we haven't. We still haven't
but-
mentioned
Yeah,
that
that breakfast
that
that
at
we had
breakfast,
in the
yeah,
morning before we went
before
out.
we left, of
Yeah.
course.
Talk.
Well, it was again because you were speaking with Gaetano. You had in Spanish. You had a fluidity, right, to be able to explain things very quickly. And because it was happening so fast, I had to tune out a little bit because I couldn't keep up. Although he did tell us a story, and he did tell us a little bit of his experience in Peru, and the story of someone that he asked us to bring with us to Jerusalem.
It was a dear friend of
It was a good friend of his. They were both working. He was another priest, another young priest like him named Daniel, and they were both working as part of a project that goes to Peru and Bolivia and a couple of other countries in Latin America, building black missionaries, building schools, and other activities that they do to help in that region. And he told us that his friend was killed, in a situation where he found himself in Peru with some other people in a car who were stopped by some gunmen wanting to take a hostage and wanting to ask money, obviously, in exchange for the life. And they had chosen a woman who was a volunteer, a young woman who was traveling with them in the car. And Danielle had stepped in and said, "No, I will go in her place." And he told her to stay. And the story goes that they took him and 2 days they didn't hear from him again, and 2 days later his body was found. And so obviously a very traumatic event, a very traumatic story, impacting, of course. And he pulled out a postcard. And on the back of the postcard, he said that Daniel was also, he was a storyteller, he was a singer, he loved to write songs and to sing them, obviously Christian Catholic songs. And on the back of one of the postcards that he gave us, there was a song that he wrote, that Daniel had wrote, called Envíame, Send Me. And he goes, I'd like to sing it for you. And so he pulled out his guitar, and in his kitchen, over breakfast, he sang us a song that Danielle had wrote. And it was beautiful, and it was touching, and it was very loving. Clearly, you could see the love. And he gave us the picture of Daniel, and he asked us to bring him to Jerusalem with us. And it would be the first, really, picture, like object, shall we say, that we would carry with us. And when in a way we felt like we were bringing an angel with us, that an angel, a brother, a being of light was walking with us, accompanying us to Jerusalem. Yeah.
And I remember that Caetano said that morning he didn't think in to do that, but that morning he saw the picture and read the sign that put send me.
Send me.
And then he saw, then the idea of to send him with us to Jerusalem came to his mind. And for that reason, he came to us. I felt that he wanted to go with you. And and that I sent him with you to Jerusalem, and that was an interesting thing because, I was feeling too that my father was coming with us, walking, and we had started to receive prayers from people that had received us or had say hello to us, in the journey. And then I was starting to feel, we say that we are never walking alone, and I feel that now we are walking with more people that we thought we were doing it. More and more people, more souls, more life is coming with us too in this journey. It was a funny thing, but I think it was meaningful too. There was a reason for that. We received this asking, this request from Caetano. Was a reason for that. This Daniel was coming with us. That he apparently, we will say today, apparently he died in this situation, or this terrible situation. Now we know that the court say what the court say about these situations, no? That all they are the dream of the world, we could say. But then he was coming with us. He wanted to come with us, and I think it's because he, in some way, Holy Spirit or God, how you want to call it, or even Daniel itself, wanted that we consider this, that we could see and reach or arrive to, in some moment in our life, to see this situation from another perspective.
I agree.
In another way. Yeah, and that is what today we open our eyes and our ears to this new way, to understand and to see these situations that look so terrible in the world, but to try to understand what is really happening at all, no?
Yeah. Because in addition to obviously having, in my wildest dreams, I'm not sure if I said this before, in my biggest dream, we were going to arrive to Jerusalem. There was going to be a big peace march. There was going to be all kinds of people across all different religions who are walking not only in Jerusalem, but into Jerusalem with me. And it's funny to think that they were already starting together. They were invisible. They were with us in spirit, but they were so my peace walk, the walk that I had imagined, I hadn't considered that I would have these kinds of these presences, these companions walking with me. So my peace, of my dreams was materializing, even though I didn't quite appreciate it at the time back then. And Danielle would be we wouldn't know it then, but he would actually change the course of our pilgrimage. Exactly. We didn't know it at that moment, but we would end up veering off of our path to actually go towards the place where he was born. Yeah. And we'll talk about this as we go ahead, but it was an unexpected thing. And one of the things that we became much more aware and available to, not rigidly following the most direct route to get us the fastest way to our destination. To be truly attentive to where we were being guided to go, because we would be guided to leave the path and kind of go almost in the opposite direction. And then we were going east, we were going northeast, we would end up going northwest. And then have to go back as a Z, a letter Z, up and back down, and so it was something that was unexpected. And we'll talk about kind of how maybe we see everything from a different vision. But before we get to that, obviously we have to build to an understanding kind of what this vision is all about and why we would see it the way that we see it right now. But for now,
and what I can say is that this change in direction that we take allow us to meet very interesting people in the in
that journey.
In that journey. We will mention them that if we would have not meet them, these people in this chain of directions, things would have been maybe different, or we wouldn't have received what we needed to receive in meeting them, no? Or they received what they needed to receive from us too, or from the Holy Spirit. Then it was interesting because there were some important meetings there. We will mention them when we arrive the moment.
And this podcast, part of why we're doing this is to look at everything differently from the perspective of A Course in Miracles, and from the perspective of a more expanded understanding, and for healing the vision that we had of other people, healing these ideas that we have, healing and looking at situations that were being presented to us from a different way, in a way that liberates everyone from the feelings of guilt and pain and suffering and sacrifice. And so all of these ideas we didn't understand fully. I will say for myself how to interpret them. I just know like I said earlier, I felt like I was being pulled in directions that I wasn't expecting. I didn't know how to deal with. I was trying to manage them. I was trying to, to come to kind of an inner understanding and to trust that I was being led and guided in all of this for a healing purpose and my own inner journey. But now I would look at them and look at these situations with Danielle and everything else that happened from a different lens. And we will do that as we go along, because there's things that kind of lead to this conclusion, rather than just opening up to the conclusion right now. But in the meantime, Gaetano left us, and we continue. We have a picture with Gaetano, and I'll post that too.
Very nice.
And we continued towards where he told us. Did we go straight to the church, or was this another bar that we entered? I think we went to the bar first, and then same kind of. I don't think we were quite as open in the second bar. We kept the signs out, but I don't think really there was a lot of engagement or a lot of conversation. Maybe just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I think I had in my diary that we were talking with the people there, and the owners, and it was too a nice conversation. And after, I think we went to the church, and there in the church, before arrived the priest and Gaetano with him, there was another experience that was very cute, funny, cute, but that make us think too. Do you remember? You want to start to tell it too?
Was this with the children?
Yes.
The exuberance of the children, because we had gone inside the church to wait for the priest. And because they told us that he would be coming shortly, because there was a mass, I think is what it was. So they told us to go to the church, and he would be arriving very shortly. We left our backpacks near the front door, as we were starting to do, with the signs facing outwards. We went and sat down for a little while, and within a few moments, all you heard was like the sounds of just young people and all of their joy and all of their exuberance and all of their, talking over each other, and everybody very excited in the church. So they're walking in, and you could see that, there was a couple of adults with them, and the priest obviously was with them, and Gaetano was coming with them.
A monitor, there was a lady, and all the children, they were like eight,
Eight,
nine,
yeah.
something like that, in that range of age.
That age.
And they
Yeah.
were so excited because you are walking to
Well, they saw the
Jerusalem.
sign because obviously they then read the signs and then they saw us and they were just headed right for us. And they were all, and obviously in Italian, which we could understand because we're basic enough Italian, it's like, oh, you're walking to Jerusalem? How many kilometers, are you walking? How far are you going?
And you're not
Is that your
hungry?
big, and you're not hungry? It's funny.
And you don't make a diet.
Or you must be very strong. And so all the kind of beautiful questions, innocent questions that you would expect from young people who have not seen maybe something like this every single day. But they were just so exuberant and so joyful and so loving.
Yeah.
And then there was a quiet girl, a girl who was a little bit more observant, who was a little bit more off to the side. Do you remember her?
Yeah, I remember how I remember that this happened is that all these children that maybe there was, I told you, like 15 or 20 children that, around us. And then in a moment, and they were all so happy and laughing, but in a admiring way. No, they were admiring what we were doing. We were in Christmas too. That was already un portal de Belén, un nacimiento.
Yes,
How you call it? Nativity scene.
Thank you.
In the church, in the altar, and there was a great time for children too. They love all this, and they were all asking questions to us, very simple questions, innocent questions. When in a moment I see that between them, in the group, came out a girl. I remember there was a blonde girl with big eyes. It's my memory, I don't. And she came to us, and without us anything fierce, directly she asked with a smile or with the big eyes looking at us. She says, "Are you Christians?" She asked. And you know what is the funny thing? I forgot to mention that same questions they asked us, this family, the Foster family, asked us that too the day before in dinner. They asked the same question, and the only other time that this question was asked to us was with the hermit, the second hermit.
That's right. Are you Catholics? Exactly.
Are you Catholic? And we had tell here how we didn't know still how to handle this, but we wanted to be sincere and to say things in the best way. And the night before with the Foster family, when they asked this, they asked it very naturally, looking at us, without any judgment. I remember that I told them that we were spiritual, but we were open-minded.
That's right.
And we believe it, of course, that there was a God, but we were open to all religions. And they accepted. They didn't say anything at all, and the things continued like nothing had happened. And Caetano knew this because I think he was there when we say. Then when this girl came, it was all happening in a moment, in less than a second. She asked with that big eyes and that smile and that admiration in her face, at the same time, like wondering what was going to be the answer, like hoping, expecting an answer. And in that moment, the only thing that could come from me was yes, we are Christians. And she said, I knew it. And that finished. And then we continued laughing or whatever. But I after that, I knew, and after we talk about that, because you were the first one that came after to me, why you say to the girl that we are Christians? We are not Christians. And before you tell me all that, in my mind was what happened here? Because it was not the answer that I give to the Foster family. And it was not the answer for sure that I give to the hermit a couple of days before. Digo, what happened here? But I knew that I had done the right thing. That I for sure I knew, I felt in my heart that my answer was right. And then when we that night or later you asked me this and we were talking and you said, I don't want to have the
pressure, the label,
and all that. I remember that came to me and I had in my diaries written. But is I say that I am not Christian, I feel that I am lying more that I say You know that I am Christian because I feel Christian. O sea, I feel Christian in the way that I understand Christianity. You know, and this Christianity that I feel, this devotion for Jesus and his message, doesn't exclude Buddha or doesn't exclude Mohammed or doesn't
That's right.
exclude any
right.
other prophet or any other
Teacher or
teacher or follower of
Yeah.
this journey of peace, of love, of spirituality, because we are walking all towards the same goal.
Right.
Towards why we need these levels, you know. And if we use a level beautifully, like I felt, okay, and today I can say, because A Course in Miracles is a Christian path too, but it's telling you don't give importance to the form, give importance to the content. And this is what we are doing here. If I want to say that I am a Christian, I feel honored to say I am a Christian because I love the path that Jesus, and I am seeing a picture of Jesus just in front of me, like he's confirming what I say.
Well, it's the
I
path
love
of the Christ.
the path of the
It's
Christ,
the
the inner
path of
Christ.
awakening remembering the Christ
Exact.
that we are.
But
Yeah.
even his history,
story.
his message, what we did, what he did in his journey, this path that he followed, is an inspiration for me. I can say that I feel Christian, but at the same time, I can say that I am Buddhist because I love the path that Siddhartha walked, and many other paths that the Bhagavad Gita, and many other paths that are the same with different symbols and different stories are pointing to the same truth, that there is beyond all of them, because there is only one God. So there is one creator,
One source.
one
Yeah.
source from where everything has come. And there are many ways to reach to the ones that we have forget who we are and are sleeping in this dream or in this life of physical life. There are many paths that we can reach, come back to home. You know, and yeah, then in that moment, I didn't know how to explain that at that time. Today, I can explain it better. But what I knew is I was not lying saying that I was Christian. I was more right. I was right saying that I am Christian. What I cannot do is to exclude my brothers, that I are following another path that had another terminology or another great master or another thing. We are all going to the same place. And the Holy Spirit and God use all paths when we are open to see them or to listen them, you know, and to follow them. Of course, He's not going to support the impossible. Here, His Holy Spirit of God is not going to support the pain, the suffer, the illusions, the evil, or all the things that we think that are real in this world. He's not feeding these ideas, but he's pointing towards the truth that is beyond all of them. You know, then it's true that when we are in a concrete path or spiritual path or philosophy or perspective, you know, we need to be aware to try to recognize what is truth and what is not. But all paths are bringing you to the same truth. And we had a master, we had an inner guide. And we know now we had a master that is inside of us. And if we hear, we listen, we will hear his voice pointing always towards the same goal, towards God. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, whereas for you, I think you could say that with confidence. I couldn't, because I did not have that upbringing that you had. I did not have that relationship or that understanding of Jesus in the way that you did. And so for me, I could say I was Christian because I was baptized. Okay, I'm baptized in the Greek Orthodox Church, so yes, I am
like
technically
me, I could say.
Christian.
Exactly.
But you could say, for example, that you went to church, you were studying to become a priest, your family was practicing Catholic, your mother took you to, you were in Sunday school, you did catechism classes. So you could
I
say,
went to a seminar to study,
right? To become a priest. So you could say all of these things. Say, okay, I may not agree 100% with everything of the Catholic Church, but I can say that I am Christian. But for me, that wasn't the same. And so that was, I think, maybe for me, why it was a little more difficult, because I came to spirituality on a different path. I came from it, on it with the more new age spirituality, if you want to call it that, like the conversations with God, or the, the Deepak Chopras. And so and my reintroduction into or my introduction really into spirituality came from there. And so for me to immediately say, yeah, I'm Christian, felt like I was lying. And I
for
felt,
me too. For me, from this perspective, that was much more open. I always try to avoid to say that I am Christian, for that they don't understand wrongly what I was trying to say. Like I am exclusively Christian person, But in this case was different because
in this case you can understand, because you what are you going to say? And I remember that moment, because it felt like something surreal, like, because she came out of the crowd, came forward, and with those big eyes, like, are you a Christian? And it's like, you're not going to say, no, I'm a free spiritual thinker who accepts all paths, because there is only one God and all lead to God. Yeah.
Because what she wanted to know is that if we were like her, and we were like her, that we were brothers,
That's right.
that we were brothers and sisters, that we had the same purpose, the same loving intentions, the same God over our heads.
Yes.
That is what she wanted to know. And
If
then
we were joined by love, if we were
exactly.
joined by love, and I think that's ultimately where this is ultimately where all teachings lead to. Is like, are you joined by that, or are you going to keep holding on to what separates you and ideas that keep you separate? And so, but back then again, I didn't have the terminology. All I felt was this sense of, I'm lying. They have ideas of who I am that are not real, that are not true, and I'm maintaining an image of myself that is, or presenting an image of myself that is not completely true, and it's actually false. And so it was feeding a lot of anxiety in me, a lot of guilt, a lot of, I'm not speaking the truth and I'm feeling bound. And that's why I was kind of being even more kind of like, don't speak about God. Let's keep God out of the conversation, and let's keep it neutral, because I already felt like, in going to these churches and all of these spiritual places, especially Catholic, as we were walking in a Catholic, we weren't going to Buddhist centers, we were not going to other religion, or to mosques, we were going to monasteries, convents, Catholic churches. And so that's what was there. So there was that inner kind of conflict going on of, how do I reconcile this, how do I speak the truth, while honoring who they are, honoring that this is not exactly how I believe things, and I need to remain faithful to what I believe. How do I do that? And all I could think of was silence, because that was the safest choice, because I didn't know how else to proceed.
No, but it's totally understandable. I'm trying to explain more what was passing from my head, because it's the same that you are considering. I was considering myself, because I say, I thought the thing here is who was asking at that moment. It was a child. It was innocence itself. I didn't want to give an answer that could put her away, of the truth. I wanted to give an answer that bring her to the truth. When we meet this hermit the other day, he was asking for judgment already. So he had an idea of what was wrong.
And what was right.
And what was right.
Path, what's not a correct
Then
path.
in that way, I give the answer that in that moment was, I felt that was the more right, no? But but in this case, it was different. And even the family the day before, I could feel that they were asking with an open heart, genuinely, that maybe they had their prejudices about what was right or what not. But it was another, it's what different degrees from where this question came. No, it was more, the first time was more judging, or more, the second was more, I didn't know, but I'm receiving love here. I'm going to answer in the best way that I can. But this time it was like Christ itself was asking me. Because Christ can, in the Cosmic Miracle, Christ can like a child. Like that child, innocent child that doesn't need to defend anything because he's protected already. And then this maybe was a representation of the Christ, and helping us to consider a right answer to this question. Now, it's the first time that I think in this way about that, because it really was a oniric thing. It came like a dream. It was all came slow motion. Slow motion, and this angel, because she looked like an angel, with her big eyes and her manners, she more wise than she was, because all the children, they were like But she came slowly,
Yeah.
silently, you know, and she put the question there,
Yeah.
like the opportunity,
Yeah.
opportunity to think right, to think in another way about the answer that I was going to give, or we were going to give. Don't you think?
Maybe she was asking the real question is, which we didn't maybe understand, and I'm just maybe reflecting on it now. It's like, are you the Christ? Not are you Christians, but
Yeah.
are you the Christ?
Yes, could be. Would
Are
be another
you
reading.
are you this light that is one with all? Are you this innocence that is one with all? Are you a brother to all? Do you remember that this is what joins you to all? Is that what you are?
Yeah, and
Or
should
are you a definition that tries, or a label that you're trying to avoid that you think is going to separate you from your brothers? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a thought that just kind of came to me as you were
It
speaking.
didn't came from the, if that girl didn't think in this way.
Yeah.
It always is clear that it was a channel to for that this idea came to our minds,
That it enters our
our
consciences.
like this entering today,
Yeah.
for example, no, and
Yeah.
seeing this situation from another perspective, another way to see that situation that happened in the past that already had an impact. This simple thing, like many others, it had an impact, because make us question, what is really being a Christian, what I really am.
Yeah, what am I?
Is I
Exactly.
need to
That's really
define
what am I?
myself,
Yeah.
what I am.
Yeah.
So, and I really came to the conclusion, I can, since I need to choose between I am a Christian or I am not, I feel more right to say I am a Christian.
Right.
Look, I'm not going to exclude anybody else.
That's it.
Obviously, but and then I think with that it was already a gift itself, the experience. But we can see that there are more readings, more letters that we can get from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the question is always coming. We talk about, that this was an even though we were walking for peace, this was an opportunity to really reveal all the barriers that were hiding the peace that was there. And part of the conversation is, well, what is peace? And what is, what is this peace? Because I was walking with these ideas of peace being this thing that you create in the outer world, even though at the same time I was saying you create peace within you. It's all in your own heart. It's all in how you
Peace
think.
starts
Peace starts
within.
within. The famous Gandhi quote.
Yeah.
You have to be this peace that you wish to see in the
the
world.
world, that he was right.
And he is right about that. But at the same time, I still feel there has to be action in the world. I have to go out there and I have to do something to solve the problems, because there are people out there who are causing these conflicts. There are victims. There are abusers. There are people who are suffering who are at the mercy of things that are beyond their control, and there are people who are trying to abuse of them and control them, manipulate them, and you have to protect them. You have to make sure that you are speaking for them. And so I had a lot of ideas still around around who my brother is, right, which is not the Christ, clearly.
Still we were giving
I was giving a
reality
lot of reality to
to
duality
all that.
thinking, shall we call it?
Yeah.
To conflict, to the abuser, to the victim, to a lot of ideas that fed this idea of being separate from my brother and not the Christ with my brother. But I wasn't aware of that back then. And so, I think that the little girl, that innocence, that child was coming in this form, or the Christ was coming in that form. The light was coming in that form, saying, do you recognize me? Do you recognize yourself? Do you recognize this is who you are? Do you know that this is who you are? Are you willing to accept this is who you are? And this, by the way, is what all of creation is along with you. Again, I didn't have that back then, because I was
walking.
I was still trying to, we're still walking the journey.
We're in the process.
But those ideas of separation, those ideas of, what keeps me separate from my brother, were also what is keeping the peace, which is also the Christ, by the way, that peace, that inner light, that love, they were hiding that. So all of my ideas around good and bad, evil, innocent, those who abuse and those who are abused. All of those ideas were covering something that is eternal, a peace that goes beyond forms, a peace that is of God, the Christ, which is peace, which is love, which is the light. And so I wasn't aware of that back then, but she was coming, the Christ, if you will, was coming in that form to speak, to say, Do you recognize who you are? Are you willing to accept who you are? Are you willing to let the barriers hiding who you are be revealed? Because obviously it revealed my judgments were there right there saying, but I'm not a Christian. Wait a minute. I'm not like, I don't want her to think that I'm, I am this, Catholic, I'm a, person, Catholic woman. I'm a practicing religious person. I'm not that.
Or evangelizer.
I'm an evangelist. I'm preacher. Oh my God. Or I'm walking because I'm doing a pilgrimage for peace because, I'm doing what Jesus would do. I'm, doing this for Jesus. I'm doing this for the church. I'm doing this, like all of these things. And you go, those are the impediments that I didn't realize, all of the judgments that were there that needed healing.
Yeah, then maybe the question as the course point to will be like, is a brother come to you and make this question, maybe he's asking, are you seeing me like a brother?
That's right.
Like yourself?
That the real self that you are.
Exactly, that we are. Yeah.
The Christ that you are. Yeah. So yeah, interesting questions to consider. Yeah. Yes. So I think we're at the end of this particular episode. It's a natural place to stop before we continue on into the time of Christmas, which is coming up in the next episodes. The story of Daniel, I will mention, is a story that's not in our book. One of the many decisions that we had to make was which stories do we include, which stories do we not. And the story of Daniel is not in the book, but obviously many of the other stories that we have told are in our book, Walking for Peace and Inner Journey. We invite you to check it out if you haven't checked it out already.
Yes.
So thank you, pilgrims. Thank you for walking with us again today. We hope our conversation has awakened or inspired some of your own reflections, some things also for you to contemplate in your own inner journeys as they continue unfolding. And we leave you today wishing you all a buen camino, and until we meet again on our next episode together.
And we see you how you really are. We are brothers and sisters in this journey toward our real home. Thank you to everybody.
Amen.